Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Write. And this panel is to discuss our writing processes, what has brought us to this point in our writing careers, and how we manage to stay sane through all of this. I'm going to have our panelists introduce themselves and then answer a fun little question on telling us what they enjoy doing when they're not eating, sleeping, or writing. And I will start with Nance, and then she can pass it along to whoever she wishes to.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Nance Sparks, and what do I enjoy doing when I'm not eating, sleeping, or writing? I guess it would be outdoor stuff. I live in a nice little quiet town in Wisconsin on a lake, and so if it's summertime, I'm outside on the boat. If it's not summertime, I'm collecting firewood so we can stay warm. So, and photography, I love photography. So, and I'll pass it on to Barbara because she's to my right.
Yay! I'm Barbara Ann Wright. I write sci-fi and fantasy as well as edit for Bold Strokes books, and as well as those other things. I would love to watch movies. If there's anything horror on, I'm gonna watch it. And now to Lauren Emily.
Hi, I'm Lauren Emily Whalen, and when I am not eating, sleeping, or writing, I like to do aerial arts. My favorite apparatus is aerial sling or aerial hammock. It is a giant loop of fabric that hangs in the air, and it's a lot of fun. And I will pass it to Melissa.
Oh, thank you so much. I was thinking of this question, and then I realized that the answer that I came up with actually violates the question because I love to eat. So I think that my answer will have to be, I like to think about what I'm going to eat next, since I can't answer that I'm a foodie. I love food and wine.
You can answer any way you like.
If I go to a restaurant and I'm not familiar with it, I like to order beyond my entree just to try different things. And so wine tasting is also a lot of fun. But like Lauren, I'm a bit of a theater nerd. When I was a kid, I was an avid bowler. I miss it now. But yeah, give me something to eat and we'll be best friends.
Good to go. Just not before you go on the aerial with Lauren.
There you go.
Right? Right.
After. We'll go
There
to
you go. All right, so my next question. What was your first published work and what made you decide to finally submit it? What gave you the courage to say, okay, this is what I'm willing to put out there and let the world see? And I'll start with Lauren.
Well, my first published work was actually not with BSB. It is a young adult novel called Satellite. It is also a queer young adult novel put out by a small press called World Castle Publishing. And it took a long time. The submission process took a long time. But what finally got me to jump the gun was I have a really good friend who is also a published author, and she read over it and she said, somebody's going to want this. So I feel really fortunate to have that person still in my life.
That's good, excellent. And so do you always have people kind of read it first and kind of give you some type of input on whether or not it be something you'd want to publish?
Yes, most often, yeah. I for 2 winters, I'm just I had to gesture the other way. I had that same friend read it over and give me notes on the very first draft, which was really rough. I had a couple of other friends, one of whom is an editor at a freelance job I have. She beta read the second draft. So I usually have at least one beta reader along the way.
Okay, all right. And Barbara?
So my first novel was with Bold Strokes Books. It was The Pyramid Waltz in 2012. I had shopped it to a bunch of other places first, like agents and like giant houses and stuff. And they were all like, hey, we really like this, but we don't want it. And so I was like, but why though? And I think it was because they were like, don't know how to sell a lesbian princess. And so my question to Google was like, how to sell a lesbian princess. And it was right away. It was like, hey, Bold Strokes Books. So I think that's why I went to Bold Strokes itself, because the world needs more sarcastic lesbian princesses.
Exactly. Can't have enough of those.
No,
Exactly.
one in every home.
All right, Melissa.
I wrote Waiting in the Wings first, and it was a decade ago this year, and it was a summer project. I was a theater teacher at the time, and I had the summer off, and thought another way to scratch a creative itch. And I'd never really written anything before, so I didn't know quite how it would go. But the longer I was with the project, the more I started to wonder, well, maybe this is something I should submit. And as I got closer, I got a little bit more nervous. But once I started going down that pathway of making a list of publishers who would be interested, it was like I kind of sold myself on the project, and that helped me get the courage to do it. So I submitted to Bold Strokes, and I waited and I waited, and it's hard. If you've ever submitted a book, you kind of just have to put it out of your mind a little bit. But it was very surreal to hear back that people had read it, because I wasn't somebody who allowed anyone else to read it in advance. I didn't even tell the people in my life I was doing it. So it was quite a celebration when the book was accepted for publication, and here I am, I think 21 books later, something like that, with a career going, and I couldn't be happier that I finally decided to submit it. I mean, what if I'd just put it in a drawer? My life would be very different right now. So that's some advice for anybody out there with a novel in the drawer. Take it out, send it in.
Yeah. Hashtag goals for Melissa.
Yes. I want to know what that conversation with your family was like. Were you like, oh, by the way, wrote a book and it's getting published, tapas? You know, or did you just throw that out there?
I mean, that was word for word, pretty much how it went. So you nailed it.
Nance, before I pass it to you, I just want to say welcome, Julie.
Julie.
And
Oh,
Nance,
Julie, you're on mute. Yeah.
There we go. Hi, happy to be with you all. Sorry for the delay.
that's okay.
Well,
Nance?
my first published book with Bold Strokes was Cowgirl, and it was a surreal experience. Yeah, I wrote it right after I finished college in the late 1990s, early 2000, and then life took over, and had a son to raise and bills to pay and all that fun stuff. And then 20 years later, pulled it out of the drawer and dusted it off and gave it a little tweak and sent it in. And like Melissa, held my breath and waited and waited and waited. And then got the phone call from Rad that they wanted to publish it. So that was pretty exciting.
Excellent. Julie, you get the honor of answering both first and second question.
Okay, hit me.
The first question, by way of introduction, is to tell us what you enjoy doing when you're not eating, sleeping, or writing.
Well, I got to do one of my most favorite things in the whole world today. I went out to Glendale Municipal Airport, and I got to see my airplane for the first time in a year and a half. And I spent most of the day cleaning and polishing my baby, my T-67 Firefly. So I'm very happy about it. And I met my mechanic, and he said, my plane looks good, and we just got to do a couple little checks, and then I'll be ready to fly again. So that is something that I like doing. I could spend all day tinkering out at the hangar, me and the guys.
Pretty cool. And the next question was, what was your very first published work, and what made you decide to publish it, to submit it?
I don't think this really counts, but the first thing I ever wrote was a short story for the Rad list, which was Radcliffe's initial mailing list. And she would solicit short stories. So I sent something in, and I got some really nice feedback, and Radcliffe edited that and made some comments for me. And so I felt really encouraged. And then I started thinking, I was reading a lot of books and reading a lot of different authors. And I became friends with BK Powell, and she was really helpful to me in saying, I think you have some interesting stories to write. So when I'd be sitting in a hotel room for 18 hours or in an airport waiting on an airplane, then I would start writing. And so I actually didn't start writing until just a couple of years ago. So my first book, The Road to Wings, which I sent in to Bold Strokes, they accepted that and published that. And then off I went.
Excellent. So basically everyone's saying no fear, just put it out there.
Exactly.
All right. Folks, if you have any questions you'd like for me to ask our lovely authors, please place it in the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen. Okay, I have the next question. If you're currently, well, first of all, who's currently a full-time author? I know Melissa is. Yeah, Nance, Melissa. Okay. So for my full-time authors, tell us how you were able to make that transition into becoming a full-time author. And do you feel like it was the best decision you ever made?
I'll let Melissa go first.
Okay. Well, the way it happened is, first of all, it wasn't my goal initially, but once I was, a little ways into it was some nice vacation money, which was great, but I was working full time, and it got to the point where I started to think, well, maybe this is where I'm being pulled. Maybe this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I had to wait though, because you don't just go full time after your first book, unless you're one of those Cinderella stories that happens like in a blue moon with a great big book deal. And so for me, it was a matter of building up my backlist and having enough titles bringing in royalties, that my income continued to rise. It also doesn't help that I write romance, and romance is a genre that just sells well on its own. And so that was very helpful as well. But I think it took me a good 4 years to build up enough titles to say, okay, what I'm able to make over here can equal what I'm making at my full-time job. And I really wanted to wait until that happened. I didn't want to do it early. I didn't want to like leap without looking. I wanted to make sure I'm a conservative person in terms of risk management, and so I wanted to be sure that it was the right decision. And so I did it, and it's gone well, and it continues to go well, and I'm very happy with that decision. And I love my job, and I know how fortunate I am to make a living with my imagination. I mean, what could be better?
Excellent. Nance?
I'm only 3 books in, so I'm not quite as long on the backlist yet, but I worked a lifetime in IT, and that gave me a very nice cushion to say that this is my pre-retirement career. So I'm at that age where I'm ready to kind of ready to retire, but I have time now to write instead of having to be high stress on call 24/7. So that's what pushed me over to writing full time, as opposed to having the backlist and the sales. And so now I'm hoping for backlist and sales.
Okay, and for our authors that are, I won't say part-time because we're never part-time authors, for our authors that have day jobs, Julie, is that something that you're looking forward to being able to do, is to be able to be a full-time author?
I don't honestly envision me being a full-time author, because I write way too slow. And I don't think people would have patience for that. But I recently retired from my professional job as an airline pilot in May of last year. So I do have the luxury of having a lot of time, which is good, because now I'm so busy with stuff. I'm like, how did I ever find time to go to work?
Exactly.
So I'm enjoying my retirement and enjoying writing. And it is nice. I only have 3 books out, but I've got ideas for several that I'm going to be working on in the future. So it is nice to think about that and plan about that.
Okay. And what about you, Barbara?
I used to be a full-time writer until my life took a turn and I needed more cash. So now I'm an editor and a writer. And I think sometimes about how it would be cool to go back, but I also love my job as an editor. So it's sort of a catch-22. I'd love to do this, but yet I don't want to lose that. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll just become a very specific editor and we'll be like, no, not you. I choose you and you and you. That's it. No more.
Instead of roses, you'll hand them books. Lauren?
Well, yeah, I feel like it's the wrong answer to say no. I'm very glad I'm not the
Never
only
wrong
one.
answer.
But 7 years ago, though, I did kind of reprioritize my life. I was at a job where it was full-time. I was commuting an hour each way by public transportation, and I live in Chicago, so that included during the winter, and these were 2 of the roughest winters Chicago had ever had, is when I had this job on the complete other side of the city. So About 7 years ago, that's when my first book was out on submission. And I said to myself, I do need to reprioritize. So because I wanted to build up my freelance writing career as well, and I'm also a professional performer. So I worked several part-time jobs for a while, and now I do have a full-time job, but I only work 4 days a week, and we are now still fully remote. So it's been a really nice work-life balance. I have a lot more time to write because I'm not commuting constantly. And so I am all about that balance. And I like being busy and having a lot of different focuses too. I think it really, for me personally, it helps me a lot as a writer.
Okay. All right, we do have a question from the audience, and this is from an anonymous attendee. My submission to Bold Stroke Books, well, hold on. Let me read it first. Okay, that is a question that we will probably send offline because that's not a question that we can answer on this panel. I apologize. Okay. My next question. Okay, when you write, do you follow a set schedule or do you get it in when you can fit it in? We'll start with Lauren.
Yes and no, depends on where I am in the process. I write all of my first drafts in 30 days. Because for me, that really helps to just kind of not get in my own way, so to speak. I just kind of get it all down, and then I do 2 or 3 more full drafts after that, and that can take a little bit longer. So that can be a get it in when you fit it in. What I've really found helpful in the past several months is there's a writing space that's about 15 minutes away from me by train that's open on Fridays, which is my day off from my day job. So that really helped me when I was doing edits for, I'm pointing the wrong way every time, forgive me, 2 winters. And when I was working on that's good. I like that. That's good. And when I was working on my March release, Take Her Down, which is also with BSB. So it's, yeah, it depends on where I am in the process.
And you said you finish it in 30 days?
I finished my first draft, yeah, in 30 days.
Wow. Okay.
I have a set word count each day, and I have a rough outline, except for when the book I'm working on right now is actually with a co-author, and so we had a very detailed outline because we were working together in 2 different states. But for my own stuff, yeah, I have a rough outline and kind of this needs to be finished by here. And it's my day job is I'm a corporate admin. And so that really comes in handy when I want to get something done by a deadline. I am also a theater person, so I'm very good with like, this needs to be done by this time, and it just does. So
Wow, that's pretty cool. Melissa?
I do have a relative similar schedule with some wiggle room. I really find that I write most in the morning. If I can get a lot of words down in the morning, that really gets my day going. But I do have a pretty firm cutoff time of about 3:30 in the afternoon when small people infiltrate my life again. And so I have to be ready for that. And so I am aware of the clock as I'm working, and I do, write several books a year. So it's important to me to try to stay on top of my schedule and monitor my word counts as I go so that I can try and keep my head above water, especially in the midst of COVID right now, because nothing is ever dependable.
What is predictable these days?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Nance?
I write in the mornings. I get up and I come into my office, and I'm most productive morning to early afternoon and Monday through Friday. And then my wife and I have the weekends to go play. So that's pretty much my schedule.
Okay, Barbara?
I write whenever I can fit it in. I write around my job, but also I have rheumatoid arthritis, so writing every day is not a thing that I can promise. So usually it's, yeah, if I'm feeling good and I have a little time, then I'll do some writing. If I'm feeling crabby and I have a little time, I'll edit somebody else's work because that always works.
Julie?
I try to kind of outline my whole story in my head before I do anything. And I kind of get snippets of scenes and dialogues, and I make myself notes. And then when I actually go to writing it, I have a word goal that I shoot for 1,000 words a day. And I try to do that in the morning after I chillax a little bit. And if I hit that goal and I'm still feeling inspired, I keep going. And if I'm ahead of schedule, I give myself a day off. And if I'm behind schedule, then I make my word goal 1,500 words, which I've done. So that's basically, I try to keep it really simple for me.
Okay. We have a question from the audience that I can read. How do you keep motivated to keep writing? And do you write every day? We'll start with Nance.
I think it's whether or not the story's talking to you. And, you know, if you're in the groove and the characters are talking to you and everything's flowing, then it's really easy to write every day. But sometimes you get a little stuck or cornered, and especially for those of us who don't outline necessarily, then it takes a little bit of, that's why I say, morning's my most productive, but sometimes it's mid-morning, early afternoon before I even get in the groove, because it takes me a little bit to hear my muses chatter a little bit. So
Julie, how do you stay motivated?
I have to give myself some breaks, and if I'm, struggling with conflict or something like that, I have to kind of step aside, and I'll go outside and go walking or go to a movie or go flying, now that I can do that, and do something completely away from it. Just try not to think about it, and then the next morning I'll hit it again, and generally that works for me.
Melissa?
I just don't really have the wiggle room to say I'm just not motivated today, because it's like it's my full-time job. I have to be. So it's just like any other job where you can't. I don't want to do surgery today. So I need to sit down and do it, and it may not be good. I mean, if we're not feeling motivated, it might not be my best work, but I have to try, right? What is it Nora Roberts said, and I'm paraphrasing, I might get it wrong, but you can't edit a blank page. So I'm going to sit, I'm going to get some words on the page. I'm going to do my best because it's my job that day. And then I'm going to try to make it better later. And you know what? Sometimes on your worst days where you're like, I just don't have it today, you surprise yourself and it winds up being your best work. And I remind myself of that when I'm having a rough time. And maybe that's a motivator of just some past success when I just wasn't feeling it. But
Yeah.
I got to sit down and try at the very least, no matter what.
Yeah. And you have a crazy household, so.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
People.
Dogs and crazy.
Barbara, how do you stay motivated?
Well, I'd first like to say that if I ever have a surgeon who says, I don't really feel like doing surgery today, I will take another appointment. But I'm going to say it in the way that I tell people when they ask me to give them motivation, because if I say this in the first person, I'll sound really conceited. But I say to people that if you have a story to tell, no one else can tell it in the same way you can. Even if the idea is similar, your story is going to be unique to you. And if you don't write it, then it's silent and the world will miss out on it forever.
Great. I'm gonna write that down, Barbara. I want you to call me every morning and remind me of that.
Now, do you have a favorite writing location? Start with Lauren.
I really love coffee shops. That was what I really struggled with when everything was really shut down, is I had to, what keeps me motivated is deadlines. I'm basically, and sometimes when you are busier and I have a day job and I have other freelance writing projects, sometimes it's like, I have to work on this book right now. And like Melissa said, it may not be my best, but I have to try. And I found that coffee shops, or at least locations that are not my apartment, are, I don't know, just something about the energy and the ambient noise really helps me. I can get it done in my house because I have to, but when I have the choice, I really like to change up my location a little bit.
Coffee shops seem to be really popular from what I've seen on a lot of panels through the past couple of years. I don't understand it, but if it works. Julie?
Yeah, coffee shops, too busy, too distracting for me. I have a really comfortable recliner and that I write in with a great view. I have a wonderful view of the sky. And so all I have to do is look out the window and see the sky. And that helps me a lot. So I've got a very comfortable little spot with a, indention that's just custom made for me. And that's my favorite place to write. Or I do get really great story ideas, not actual typing, when I'm outside. And I like to just sit outside in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and I get some really good ideas.
Okay. Barbara?
Well, not to sound like someone who goes on a lot of dates, but I can do it anytime, anywhere. I write here in my apartment, I write outside, I write in coffee shops. I write both with my laptop and longhand. So if I've got a something to write on and a pen, I'm good anywhere.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a star of a Dr. Seuss
I was about to say, in a boat
In a
with
box
goat?
with a fox.
Yes.
Nance?
In the summertime, I can be found on my patio. And in the wintertime, I have this office. So these are my writing spaces. I write at home where it's quiet and I can focus and I can just dive into the story and be one with the story. I can't do the coffee shop thing. That's way too distracting.
Melissa?
So I like to write at the coffee shop. I like to go to Barnes and Noble or Panera, and I think I romanticize it a little bit, and I like being that coffee shop writer, but I notice I don't do so well there in terms of word count, because this is me, like, just, what are you, there's a job interview right there. Why would you answer that way? No, you're not getting the job. I mean, and then it's like, oh, now I gotta go. So what I found is that that's kind of a treat for me. If I really need to just like knock myself out of my comfort zone, I'll go to a place like that. But for the most part, I do hang out in my house, and I usually will have a spot that is my spot until it runs out. Like, it's got a certain amount of fairy dust, that spot. And once I'm just not feeling it, then I get a new spot. And right now I'm losing the fairy dust on the seat on the left on the couch. And I'm going to have to go in search of a new spot in my home. The kitchen table is looking good, and I might take up residence there for a few months until it's out of dust.
I think you were a house cat in a former life, because that's how they pick their new napping
Yeah.
place.
All you need is a box. Just find
That's
yourself
me.
a box.
Just get an oversized box, a TV box. Or something,
Exactly.
just put a pillow and sit in there.
That's perfect, guys. Thank you. I'm sold.
We have a question. What is your daily
pound
word
math.
count goal if you have one? Melissa, we'll start with you. Do you have a daily word count goal, and what would that be?
Really just depends on where I am in the book. When I'm earlier in the book, it's usually pretty lower. It's a lot lower. Today I would have liked 2,000. That's been my goal most of this week. And a few days I've hit 2,000. I think yesterday I hit 1,500. And so in that area, I see authors online who are like, I got 9,000 words over the weekend, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. How do you do that? Make me your house cat apprentice. I don't know, but no, 2K is about me for now.
Julie?
I shoot for 1,000 words a day.
Okay. That sounds fair. Lauren?
2,000 when I'm working on a first draft. When I'm revising and editing, I kind of lose track.
Barbara?
The only time I have a word count I'm shooting for is during NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, or if I have like a weekend plan writing, like a writing retreat with friends or whatever, and then I try and set a goal. My all-time high was 15,000 in one weekend.
Yeah, I can't talk to you anymore.
You can, it's okay.
I can't.
It was just a succession of sex scenes and kidnappings, because that was all I could think of. I don't know how much of it actually got used, so you can talk to me just fine, because it's
You
pretty much
never
all
know
of
when
it
you'll
was scrap.
need another kidnapping. So
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Build in as many as you can at any point.
Yeah.
Nance?
I find do a lot. I write a lot more words if I don't give myself a word count goal. It's too much stress. I can't do NaNoWriMo no more because it just freaks me out. So I just don't even give myself a goal. And then I do just fine and the words flow. But if I'm like, today I'm going to do 15,000 words, I look at it and I'm like, and
Paralyzed.
that's it. I'm done.
On you, man. Sex, scene, kidnapping. Rinse, repeat, repeat,
There you go.
repeat.
Rinse, repeat,
There'll be a
repeat.
story in there somewhere after you cut the edges off.
So yeah, I don't even try and give myself a goal. I just move forward. As long as I'm typing, I'm good.
Okay. So movies are usually filmed out of sequence for reasons like weather or the actor's availability or location availability. So with that in mind, when you guys write, do you write in or out of sequence? Do you go like from beginning to middle to end, or do you kind of like skip all over the place? We'll start with Melissa.
For the most part, yeah, I'm a linear writer and I do write in sequence, but I have in my back pocket that little trick that if I'm stuck and I can't afford to lose time, because like I said, it's not a luxury, I've got to get words on the page, then I will pull out, well, I do know that this has to happen and I'm really looking forward to writing this scene, so let me just start getting some stuff down. And so that's when I will pull it out, where I will jump ahead in the book, is when I absolutely have to. And it saves me every time. And it's a really good way to, like, you know, kind of give your brain a hit and to make it start working again, is by just coming at a brand new scene. But in a perfect world, I would love to write in order, because I think that gives it a lot more texture. That later scene is going to have more texture if it's influenced by something you've already written. And because I'm a bit of a pantser, I don't always know in advance what every scene is going to be. And so I would love for it to happen that way, but it's great to write out of sequence when you need to. And I encourage you, if you were like me and you think you can't do it, to give it a shot, because it can be fun.
Nance?
I'm a linear, because I'm a pantser also. And if I skip ahead, then the storyline's going to change and I have to throw all those words away anyway. That's happened before. So I'm working on becoming a little more of a planster, or a, you know, outlining a little bit better so that I don't have to throw any words away. But as of right now, it has to be very linear.
Okay. Lauren?
I am a plantser, but I'm pretty linear. Like Melissa, I do skip ahead sometimes if I'm really, really stuck. But I wrote several books that will never see the light of day for good reason, because they are bad. And the first one I ever wrote that I wrote linear, my best friend, who was my beta reader for a really long time, because he is brutally honest, said to me, this one is better than your others because you wrote in sequence. And so I've done it ever since.
Yeah, I get that.
Julie?
Yes, I definitely write from beginning to end in sequence. However, I do occasionally get moments of inspiration, like a scene or a conversation between characters. And when I get those, if I'm not at my computer, I'll write myself a note in my phone. And when I get home, I'll write that, right? And then I'll save it. And I'll save it kind of toward the end of the book and then insert that where I need to. So I try to pay attention to the muse, but basically I write from beginning to end.
Okay. Barbara?
I try to as well, and I give the advice to new writers to try that too, that even if you're not feeling like writing a fight scene or a love scene or whatever, to at least put some notes in the manuscript for yourself that it goes there. So like when Nance was saying, when you come back later, you've got your emotional arc is where it needs to be, rather than, oh, we had an epiphany here and I forgot about it, so everyone's still grouchy at the end. To put something there that says this goes here. And I did in one time in my own manuscript write love scene goes here, because I didn't feel like writing it, and I accidentally set it in that way, and my editor was like, nice try.
My wife got so mad at me. She was proofreading it and she says,
yes.
Really? Way to tease me. Shower
Yeah.
scene and then insert sex scene here.
Yeah.
Wrong.
No, that's for the reader to fill in. It's like a choose your own adventure.
All right, so how do you feel your writing has changed since you began putting pen to paper? I'll start with Julie.
I try to, I think I've tried to learn as much as I can about plotting and structure so that the story flows well. I find my most recent book is a mystery, which I never really thought I would be writing a mystery, but it has to do with the settings and aircraft accident investigation. So that was a whole new thing for me. One thing that some feedback I got on my first book was that some people thought it was too technical, and I can understand that, but that's what I wanted in that book. So I've tried to pay attention and make my subsequent ones maybe not quite so much airplane technical stuff.
Okay. Lauren?
I would say with my very early writing, I was kind of afraid to go deep. I'm sorry for the double entendre, but that was a lot of, I also write erotica, so it's just sort of like, there, but but I think my first writing, I think I was very self-conscious about how people would perceive what I was saying. And I kind of doubted my own voice. And now I just really get in there, especially with the characters. I love characters. I love when they are messy and honest and imperfect, and they always do the wrong thing. And, everybody's got to pick up the pieces. And I think once I really unlocked that, my writing changed for the better.
Barbara?
I would hope I've gotten better over the years. I think I have. I've gotten, I think what I've perfected my own process, because people tell you, that you got to find your writing process. And some people will say it has to be like this, or it has to be like this, or whatever. And I think if you listen to all of it and just kind of cobble together your own is the best way to do it, to know yourself, your writing self, and be like, okay, well, I'm going to hit this deadline, knowing the entire time I'm not going to hit this deadline, and so you build in time for yourself. So it's like, yeah, I think I've found my own process, and that was really important to me.
Okay. Nance?
In the beginning, I knew what I loved to read. So I wrote a story based on what I love to read, and I had no idea about structure, plot, character, arcs, any of that. So now I'm diving into understanding story arcs and character arcs and romance arcs and all the arcs and the structure and the plot. So I think that's the biggest thing that has changed for me, and I love it. I love the changes, the difference, the way the stories really come to life, knowing that now. But that's from beginning to now, that would be the biggest change, is just understanding what it means to write a book.
I think that's what most authors at this point, just that learning all that process kind of brings it all together, and learning that
to the point that this is my world, all of these.
Yeah.
So
it's a good thing. Melissa?
I think I found my confidence more as time has gone by. I can look back at myself writing that first book, and I think I thought I had something to prove. I was using words in that book that I don't use in books anymore. I can write a love scene. Look what I can put on the page. And that wasn't necessarily me. That was me trying to like find my seat at the table. But I think I take bigger risks now. I kill people. I killed someone last month. I killed someone yesterday. And I'm not
lawyer
afraid.
for Melissa Brayden.
In your
Is there a
book,
lawyer
right?
in the house?
In your book.
Take
You
down.
Yes, in
can-
the book,
your
in the book, of course, in the book. And in technique as well. I really still am proud of that first book, but I can pick it up and be like, what are you doing? Why are we following the character in the cab all the way home to choose what she's going to wear to the restaurant? Get to the restaurant, just jump ahead. And I think there are little tricks that I didn't know then that I employ now, that I can kind of look back with fondness on my earlier self and what I didn't know.
Okay. We have a question from the audience, and I'm just going to ask a few of you this. Do you spend more time writing a novel or editing? Barbara, since you're an editor.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of we'll fix it in post. So for my first drafts, I just full speed ahead, write, change stuff as I go in the manuscript, make lots of notes of where I made changes, and just run for the finish line. And then I spend a lot of time editing. So before I send it to my own editor, I do at least 3 passes, which I highly recommend to anyone to do at least 1 pass before you send it into your editor. So editing by a mile.
Okay. And Lauren, you mentioned the same thing. You said that you 30 days to get the first draft, but you spend more time editing.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because I am also a we'll fix it in post fan. In fact, the one I'm working on right now with a co-author, like we have a to-do list because our first draft is done. I need to have a first draft done because it's you can't edit from a blank page, but just rewriting takes a very long time. Before I sent my March release to my editor, I had taken 4 passes on it because this was a particularly complicated story that required a lot of editing.
All right, so I'm going to switch to a different fun question. And Lauren is exempt because she writes young adult. She can answer a couple of them if she would like. But the question is kind of in the theme of who would you rather? So the question is, which of your characters would you rather eat a meal with? Because we're doing eat, sleep, and write. Eat a meal with, sleep with, and it can be sexually or just cuddle in the bed with. What celebrity would you want to make as a main character in your book? So those are the 3 questions. So we'll start with Julie.
So is it a 2-part question?
It's a 3-part. So of all your characters, who would you rather eat with? Who would you rather sleep with? And what celebrity would you want to make a main character for a story?
Celebrity. Well, let me jump to the celebrity one. I would love to be able to write a story that includes Billie Jean King. I have loved Billie Jean King my entire life. I have a signed tennis ball from Billie Jean King, and she is just not only because she was a great champion, but what she's done since she quit playing tennis. That she's just such a leader and so positive and uplifting and charismatic. So I adore Billie Jean King. And then what was the first part of the question again?
So the other, who would you have a meal with? Of all your characters, who would you want to sit and have a meal with?
I would love to have a meal with Captain Catherine Hardesty, also known as Hardass, from my first book, The Road to Wings, because she's a very experienced T-37 instructor pilot, and that's what I did. And it would be so fun to get together with her and tell war stories about how student pilots tried to kill us. So that would be lots of fun. Yeah, that'd be fun.
And then the other one was, who would you, of your characters, who would you want to sleep with? It doesn't have to be sexually, it could be just cuddle in the bed with.
Let's see. Well, they're all very desirable, so this is a very difficult decision. I think probably from my newest book, Free Fall at Angel Creek, Dr. River Dawson. She's the aircraft accident investigator, and
all right.
I'll leave it at that.
Good answers. Nance?
All right, let's see. Eat a meal with any of them. I adore them all. I think it would be just fun to sit down as like a big round table and have a chat. Sleep with them. It would be Andrea from An Alaskan Wedding. And movie star would be Sandra Bullock because she's my free pass. I just adore Sandra Bullock. So.
Barbara?
Well, actually my eat with and sleep with are the same person. There's a side character. Yeah, there's a side character in my current series, the Sisters of Sarah series, whose name is Ms. Nunez. And she's a very over-the-top gender fluid character who's had a lot of experiences in life. And I loved writing her, so I would just love to hang out with her or him, whatever she's feeling at the time, because she's fluid. But as far as actresses, like being in bringing my character to life, I have no idea, because mostly I write like younger people, I think. But I would love Cate Blanchett to be in anything I wrote, even if she just sort of walks through the background, because she's one of my favorite actresses.
Yes.
So she could be in the coffee shop serving you coffee as you're having dinner.
Just anywhere. Yes.
Mad props.
Melissa?
I think in terms of having a meal, I would go with Gabriella from the Tangle Valley series because she is a fantastic Italian chef and she would be so much fun to talk food with. And maybe she would even cook it. Wouldn't that be great? And she has a fantastic chicken carbonara, which is one of my favorite dishes. I love a good carbonara. And in terms of sleep with, oh, you know, there's that sexy brunette in a business suit, Jessica Lennox from the Soho novels. We'll go with that. And I think in terms of writing, I was thinking I love to write a good, funny, quirky every girl, and someone like Mindy Kaling or Anna Kendrick would be so much fun to write.
That one. Okay, so what's the best advice you've been given as an author?
Can I do mine? Can I do
Oh, Lauren,
Oh, you want
Lauren.
to answer?
Lauren.
Okay.
And
I
then-
thought you wanted to be exempt. I
And
wasn't
then
sure.
after
Not
Lauren's
the- not the
done, I think
sleeping with.
Anne should answer this one.
Oh, Lord. We'll let Lauren go. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yes, let Lauren go.
I'm not going to do the sleeping with, but
That's
the
okay.
eating a meal with. My character Perdita in Two Winters. There, I did it correctly. She has two moms. One is an ex-cop turned social work student, and the other is a Shakespeare professor.
Oh.
And I would love to have dinner with them, especially since in the book they're all taking an improv comedy class together, and I would love to hear about that. I envision if this is ever made a movie or series, one of those moms would be played by Constance Wu, who I absolutely adore. Actually, the character's named Constance after her. And yeah, so that is my answer, minus the sleeping with part.
All right, Anne.
Okay, so.
Now you go.
To eat a meal with, I think I would choose Chase from the Femme Tales because she's a chef. She makes soul food, and soul food is my kryptonite. I love some soul food. Sleep with would be Belinda. No, not Belinda. It would be Ebony from that same thing. If you all have read Femme Tales, you'll know why. If you haven't read it, go buy it, and you'll see why I sleep with Ebony. And a movie. So the star what I would love to like put in my story would be, there are actually two people. So Queen Latifah, who I have crushed on forever, who's sort of Ebony kind of teeters over looking to kind of be like, and at her set it off character kind of inspired Ebony. And I think that's it. No, Queen Latifah.
Yeah, there you go.
I would like to make her a main character in the story.
It sounds like you
All
already
right.
have, but you know.
Yes, yes, I sort of have. She doesn't know it yet though, but so we don't have much time left. So what I'll do is if you guys let us know what you are currently working on and what you're currently working on. So Nance, we'll start with you.
I just sent in final edits for my third book, which is Secret Sanctuary, and it's a romantic thriller with U.S. Marshals and helicopter chases and all sorts of fun things. So,
All right, Barbara.
I am working on the third book in the Sisters of Ceres trilogy, which is called The Mage and the Monster.
Okay, Melissa.
Current release is Marry Me, and I have Exclusive, which is a TV news book coming out in March, and I'm writing The Last Lavender Sister, which is kind of a small town, I guess you would say, out in July.
All right, Lauren.
I have Take Her Down, which is a queer, femme-driven teen version of Julius Caesar, out on the Ides of March 15th.
Oh, wow.
Perfect.
Just handed in page proofs. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And Two Winters, which is my queer YA version of Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale, which has the Spider-Man point, is out now.
Julie.
I am currently outlining my first series. So this is actually going to be the first book is The Road to Wings. And so the series is going to be about military women. And I'm working, it's going to be like a 4, maybe 5 book series. So I'm outlining that, and I'll be working on that next.
Okay, excellent. Wow. That's all I have for everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Audience, I hope you all enjoyed it, and good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.